The time is now 7 o'clock.
I think it's safe to say that the world kind of breathed a collective sigh of relief after U.S. President Donald Trump pulled back on reciprocal tariffs. However, uncertainty still looms as it is only in effect for 90 days. For South Korea, an export-driven economy, this poses threats to our economic growth projections for the year. And then what does that do? That trickles down to demand, jobs, and so on and so forth. It is definitely a roller coaster, and the worst thing is we don't know when the next ups or downs may be. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Friday, the 11th of April on BEFM, 부산 영어 방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well. Well, is it an understatement to say it's been a whirlwind when it comes to all the tariffs and trade policies? I think it's been kind of dizzying, I'll just say. But at least for the next 90 days, or now 89 days, the world gets a little break from all of these reciprocal tariffs. We're going to step back and look at how the tariffs may affect South Korea's economy in the mid to long run. We always say South Korea is an export-driven country, but by exactly? Like how much are we talking about? As of last year, 94% of the country's economic growth was propelled by exports. That's the highest in 5 years. The Bank of Korea in February lowered its projection for the country's economic growth this year from 1.9% to 1.5%, with the chances that the figure could be even lower if these trade wars escalate. And this affects our city of Busan as well. And the city's job market has been actually quite good, having recorded its best hiring rate last month, sitting at 66.8%. And this is thanks to a boom in shipbuilding, which propelled the, an otherwise very stagnant economy. But again, the tariffs will hit manufacturing really hard. And this poses uncertainties for Busan. And as we know, for Busan, we are very much a manufacturing-heavy city. The times are definitely precarious, and we're looking for answers and guidance to get us through. In the meantime, let's get to our text topic on this Friday morning. So it's one of those, would you rather? Which would you rather? Okay, here we go. Which work environment would you rather have? A completely silent, work-only kind of office versus a very social and everyone knows everything about you kind of office. Those are your two choices, nothing in between. And by the way, what does your current workplace look like? Okay, so 자, 완전 조용, 개인 대화 없는 사무실 versus 개인 사정 다 아는 사무실. 내 선호는? 그리고 중간은 안 됩니다. 재미없어요, 그러면요. One or the other, and why 이유도 궁금하고요. 내 일터는 어떤 스타일일까? 또 알려주시고, I want to hear all about your workplace, assuming you work out of the home. And maybe if you do work from your home, if you have a home office, what that's like as well. I want to hear all about it. Send in your messages to BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube. And go to the YouTube platform. You can look for our channel, BEFM or 부산 영어 방송. You can subscribe, log in, and chat with our other waivers. Also, from your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 101. You can reach me for free through Kakao Talk. So same thing there, searching for BEFM or 부산 영어 방송 to add us. And then set in your messages, also your photos for free. And the ways you can listen to us. So many different ways these days on the radio. If you're in Busan, 90.5 and 103.3 FM. Like I said, we're streaming live right now on YouTube. You can watch again at your leisure. We're available on two apps, our own BEFM app and also the 팟빵 app, which you can listen to the segment 와글와글. All right, looking ahead to our Friday morning, what do we have in store for you? In hour number 1, we have Casey with Foreign Press Highlights. In hour number 2, Vasana with What in the World. And today, that's going to come up before our special interview, which is going to come up in the latter half of hour number 2. We're going to focus on, are you ready? Dire wolves. Do you remember I covered this for Cat's Pick just a couple days back? The whole science of gene editing. Because this company that claims to have achieved this significant milestone of creating these dire wolf pups using, extinct, dire wolf DNA, it just sounds like out of the movies like Jurassic Park, right? So we're going to find out more about this in hour number 2 from our expert. And I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:05. These are today's headlines. South Korean shares rally over 6% after Trump's tariff pause. South Korean stocks rallied 6.6% yesterday as the U.S. administration's temporary pause of reciprocal tariffs on South Korea improved market sentiment. Constitutional Court rejects Justice Minister's impeachment. The Constitutional Court yesterday rejected the impeachment of Justice Minister Park Sung-jae over his alleged involvement in former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law imposition last year. Ex-President Yoon to leave presidential residence today. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol will leave the presidential residence today at 5 p.m. and return to his private residence, officials said yesterday. KDCA urges travelers to check measles risk. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, or KDCA, yesterday urged travelers to check measles outbreaks in their countries of destination and get vaccinated if necessary amid a global resurgence of the disease. U.S. tariffs on China now 145%. Markets closed with steep losses. The White House announced that the total tariff on most Chinese goods is now 145%, as President Donald Trump's 125% levy comes on top of an existing 20% tariff. These are today's headlines. It's time to check in with Sue this morning for Busan Updates. Hi, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yes. So first of all, I want to get your take on this whole kind of like work environment. So which would you rather kind of be in this environment where everybody's just working, they say, nose, to the ground, like really working hard, not having much conversation, or having kind of like a very social environment at work where everybody knows everybody's business. What do you think?
It's easy for me. The latter.
The latter. Okay.
I would rather work in a very social environment.
The reason being?
Because I can't stand silence, awkward silence. And I'm just used to working in a very a lot of noise going on. From teaching students and stuff, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. I get it. I totally get it. Yes. Well, thanks for sharing. We're going to jump into our first update. So this is regarding 2 wildfire helicopters that crashed during the nationwide blazes. So, of course, we heard and we covered those stories. The thing is that 7 of 9 in Busan are considered aging aircraft, correct?
Yes. Recently, 2 helicopters fighting wildfires in Korea crashed, and both were found to be over 30 years old. In fact, the helicopter that crashed in Daegu was 44 years old, and the one in Uiseong was 30 years old. And this has raised concerns about the safety of using aging aircraft because most of the helicopters used for wildfire response in the city are also quite old, and 7 out of 9 are over 20 years old.
Yes.
And this is the threshold for for being considered aging by government standards. And the city helicopters come from a mix of city leases, such as the Korea Forest Service and the local fire department.
I see. So why is it so hard to replace these old aircraft? I mean, is it just money or are there other circumstances?
Other as well. So due to climate change, large-scale wildfires are occurring simultaneously around the world,
Right.
leading to a shortage in helicopter supply. And moreover, there is limited budget for leasing or purchasing new aircraft. This year, the city allocated around 2 billion won for helicopter leases, but even this required competitive bidding with other local governments. And experts are warning that there is currently no regulation limiting the lifespan of these aircraft, and unless standards are set, the risk of accidents will continue.
I see. Well, thanks for explaining why this is the case. Next up, let's talk about South Korea beginning the development of the super fast hypertube train that could travel from Seoul to Busan in 20 minutes. 20 minutes?
I know. This is the most exciting news of the week, I would
Yes.
say. The Korean government has officially started working on the core technology for the hypertube train, and it is a futuristic transportation system that could travel at speeds of up to 1,200 kilometers per hour, making it possible to go from Seoul to Busan in just 20 minutes.
Right. So it's kind of mind-boggling. I love the idea, and you can see the image on our YouTube page. But how does it work? I mean, how are they going to make it possible?
The hypertube works by replacing a train inside a tube with very low air pressure, almost like a vacuum. And the train floats using magnetic levitation. Levitation meaning 공중 분양.
Yes.
And 부양. And there is no contact with the tracks. And the train is pushed forward by strong magnetic forces.
Sure.
Because there's almost no air of friction. And the train can move extremely fast while using less energy. And to give you an idea how fast they are, for example, planes fly 900 kilometers per hour and KTX speed is 300 kilometers per hour.
Okay.
And the hypertube is up to 1,200 kilometers.
Oh, wow. So, yes, faster than planes, right?
Yes. And it also produces zero carbon emissions, like planes or unlike planes or regular trains. And this project is scheduled to continue until 2027 and will cost about 12.7 billion won. And Korea Railroad Research Institute is leading the research.
Well, I hope that it goes from like research to like fruition really, really soon, because that would be amazing. Next, let's talk about schools. So let's talk about special schools, which are overcrowded. So apparently Busan, our city, is going to add more?
Yes. Even though the number of school-age children in Korea is going down, the demand for special education is actually rising. And this has led to overcrowding in special education classes,
Yes.
especially in Busan. And the city's overcrowding rate stands at 7.1%. This is second highest after Seoul and nearly double the national average. And to tackle this issue,
Yes.
the Busan Office of Education plans to open 5 new special schools by 2030. And right now, the city has 15 special schools, but their distribution across districts is uneven. And some areas like Gangso-gu district are particularly overcrowded due to new housing developments and an influx of students from nearby cities.
I see. So tell us more about the city's efforts in this kind of overcrowding situation at special education schools.
So to address the imbalance of Gangso-gu district, the city plans to open the tentatively named Eco Delta Special School in March next year. And last year, the Busan Office of Education established 43 new special education classes. And this year, it added 41 more. And to relieve pressure on expected overcrowded classes, 40 temporary teachers were also assigned beyond standard staffing limits.
Okay.
And additionally, starting this year, the city will expand special classes, not just on annual basis, but during the school year as needed. And officials say the high demand in Busan is partly because of increased awareness and early diagnosis of special education needs.
Okay.
And they are exploring creative solutions like using closed schools or underused facilities to help ease the pressure.
I see. So early detection, hence a higher number apparently. So I'm glad that they're looking into this. For our last bit of local news, Busan City has added and expanded support for families with multiple children and made existing benefits easier to use, which is very important as well.
Yes. One key change is the expansion of car acquisition tax reductions.
Okay.
It was previously available only to families with 3 or more children. Now the benefit is extended to a family with 2 children.
Yes.
And families with 3 or more children still receive full tax exemption depending on the vehicle type. Families with 2 children can now receive up to a 50% reduction. And if they register a vehicle by December 31st, 2027, and the children are under 18. And the city is also increasing electric vehicle or EV purchase subsidies for multi-child households. In addition, families that have had a baby after January 2024 are eligible for extra support for EV purchase.
Oh, really? Okay. So anything else that we should know about? Because
Yes.
we definitely want to encourage, having, support for children.
Right. The K-Pass, which is public transportation program, now offers refunds for families with multiple children, 30% for those with 2 children and 50% for families with 3 or more.
Okay.
And also, families with 2 or more children under age 2 are eligible for priority access to child care services.
So is that for age 12, under age 12?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And low-income multi-child families can now get support for installing or replacing eco-friendly home boilers, heating device. And they can also receive discounts and priority reservations when using national nature recreation forests. And they're quite more. And in addition to the
Yes.
city and the government, almost 3,000 private companies and small businesses in Busan are also voluntarily helping to support multi-child families to tackle the low birth rate crisis.
Yes.
For example, Busan iPark Football Club offers ticket discounts for home games, and Yeonggang Bookstore gives book discounts. For more details, you can visit the Cherished Like You, 당신처럼 애지중지 website.
I see. Well, definitely if this is up your alley, if you have 2 or more children and are eligible, check all of this out. Thank you for all the updates. And of course, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
All right, now it's time to get you your traffic and weather. It's time for your traffic report right now on this Friday morning. It looks a little slow on the Dongso overpass from Bumdokgo ramp to the old Kaegum toll gate. And there is congestion on Gwanmun-daero from Pangnam Tunnel to Baegang Tunnel. Likewise, looking slow from Manduk intersection to Namhae Expressway right now. Currently, it is 11 degrees Celsius here in Busan under clear skies. It's going to warm up to 19 degrees today. There is still quite a big difference between the morning low and the daytime high across the country. Bad fine dust in the capital area right now. Looking ahead to the weekend, there are chances of rain tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow afternoon through early Sunday morning. Morning low expected 8 degrees. Afternoon highs of 15 to 16 degrees Celsius. That's for tomorrow and Sunday. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time for News Digest. We have Haley in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, my earth tone sister today.
What's with the earth tones this
Sue
morning?
too, right?
Yeah.
Everybody but you know who. She didn't get
I
that.
don't know. She's matching me with stripes, and then she has buttons on her side, on her shoulders too. I'm like, it's just different, copying.
Pure coincidence. For our text topic today, oh, do I need to ask, really? Which would you rather?
Well, what's really interesting here, because here we do more of teamwork,
Yes.
right? So I do prefer, our cubicles are kind of the half cubicles. You can see each other's, well, mostly faces. With our producer, I see the top of her head barely.
Yes.
But shade. And
You
we're
too.
always like, oh, 계셨어요? Like, you're
서로,
here.
서로.
Yeah.
어딨지?
Where are you? So I like it to be communicative. I like it to be a little, social. But at the academy, where it's basically just kind of, singular, teachers, I don't know, because we have our work is mostly done in the classroom,
Right.
and the teacher's lounge is more of a lounge, quiet place. So when there's too much talking going on, there's a bit of that 눈치. We're like, right, this is a quiet space. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I
so it's
know.
kind of different.
So guys, I do keep my mouth shut.
When?
At time. You just have to come to 서면 to see it.
Okay. But we wouldn't have it any other way here, of course. We're going to jump into our first bit of news. Where are we in terms of the ever-growing list of presidential hopefuls?
It is growing. So we have a couple big names to add to that. The Democratic Party's chairman, now former chairman, Lee Jae-myung, officially announced his bid yesterday. He released an 11-minute video. It shows his vision, dubbed K Initiative. It starts with the impeachment announcement from the Constitutional Court,
Right.
and then to how he will help revive the economy. And then former People Power Party chairman Han Dong-un also threw his hat in the race, and he held a ceremony in front of the National Assembly yesterday where the target was definitely Lee Jae-myung. So he said that we need to protect the future from, quote, a dangerous politician who can and may betray the country and his extreme populist followers. Also, the lawmaker Na Kyung-won will declare her candidacy later today.
I see. So how are the parties going to be going about picking their candidates? I think this is of major interest as well.
Right. So we're going to be talking about the rules of the primaries and where these, political rules might not be of interest
Sure.
for many. They can determine who will get selected, especially when the potential candidacy pool is quite large. So the two major parties are currently discussing the rules of the primaries under a time crunch. The key here is what percentage of the primaries will reflect the general public's votes versus the due-paying party members or registered party members. Because in the Democratic Party, of course, the picture is kind of clear, although it basically falls down to the pro-Lee Jae-myung versus non-Lee Jae-myung factions, the
Yes.
친명 and 비명. The non-E faction, they're calling for the primaries to reflect 100% general population's votes because their belief is that the very staunch pro-E members are kind of one faction within the party.
Yes. And so once again, with the Democratic Party, the DP, it's kind of, this expected figure who's, likely going to be the candidate. But, it does seem wide open for the ruling party.
Right. So there are some front runners, but it's kind of an anything goes at this point. So the PPP, the ruling party, they're trying to get what's called a convention effect out of the primary. So basically gauging public interest. But here, they're also split now along the pro-Yoon and non-Yoon factions still. So the party's emergency leadership yesterday, they announced they will go through 2 cutoff rounds, narrowing the candidates down to 4 and then 2 candidates. But then if a candidate has a majority of the votes in the first round, then he or she will become the party's nominee. So applications for the candidates are open next Monday through Tuesday, and the first round of primary candidates will be announced next Wednesday. So as you can see, it's moving along quite quickly.
Okay.
And also what's important here, the percentage of the general public versus party members.
Sure.
The first cutoff, it's been decided to, reflect 100% public polling, but then in the second round, it'll be half and half.
I see. So that's the latest in terms of the election and the pool of candidates. So now we're going to move on to the state of medical education and hospitals in the country. The government seems to be pushing on with its medical reform measures.
Right. So although this story has been put on the back burner because of the impeachment and the president election,
Yes.
it's still very much happening. So the Korean Medical Association, however, connecting this to the impeachment story, they recently called on the government to disband the government's medical reform special committee and discuss the measures from square one because their view is, well, this administration's on its way out, so let's recant and restart everything. However, the government said yesterday it will not be doing that and will continue to push on with the reform measures, and that includes changing the residents' training environment and the work environment.
Yes.
Diversifying the type of training they get, making educational more systematic, and providing financial support, including reforming the current 80-hour work week.
Yes, yes. So in the meantime, big hospitals, the major ones, have changed to function kind of without these interns and residents.
Right, because previously university hospitals, these teaching hospitals have been very much reliant on the interns and residents as a major staff pool. With them gone for, over a year now, then they kind of have to make adaptations as well. So according to the health ministry, the top general hospitals' serious surgery, serious operations, they increased by 35% last December prior to before when these hospitals made some system restructuring.
Yes.
So what kind of system restructuring and reforms are we talking about? Instead of relying on instead of relying on interns and residents, these spots have been filled by about 5,000 physicians assistants, 진료 전담 간호사,
Okay.
the PAs. The hospitals have been focusing on more serious cases and emergencies, thus the increase in these surgeries. So between September and December of last year, the number of patients admitted, so hospitalized 입원 환자, increased by 16%. Even looking at the outpatients, 외래 환자, that's recovered to figures before September of 2023.
I see. And while all of this is going on, students are staying firm on boycotts.
There's a bit of a divide here. So the SNU, the Seoul National University School's medical students, they've gone back to class. And by that, I mean fully. They're physically in class, expected to take their first exam.
Okay.
But out of the big five, so we're excluding SNU, but we're talking Yonsei, 성균관, Catholic, and Ulsan University, and Korea University medical schools.
Yes.
Their students are continuing with the class boycott. So they're registered on paper, but not going back to class.
Okay.
And they issued a joint statement earlier this week saying that the government's so-called delayed tactics have prolonged the medical education disruptions, and there is a decline in medical services and in the future services because of this. And most medical schools have already sent or they will send notices to students who have not come back to classes, saying that they will be held back. The government for itself, it has not confirmed the renewed, if potentially renewed quota for the next year quite yet.
Yes, yes. So I know a lot of people are waiting to hear that number as well. For our final story for now, we're going to go to the war in Ukraine, where Chinese fighters, they have been found on the front lines.
Right. So Russian forces, they seem to be kind of diversifying their military pool as well. We, of course, have the North Korean soldiers have been officially dispatched. But earlier this week, Ukrainian forces captured 2 Chinese nationals who are fighting with the Russian army. That was in the eastern Donetsk region. And this is according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Right.
Zelensky also claims that there are many more. This is just tip of the iceberg, claiming at least 155 Chinese nationals are fighting for fighting for Russia in the war, and said that Ukraine has their passport information as well.
So question is this. Are these individuals being deployed in an official manner, or are they kind of like individuals who have enlisted on their own?
It seems that they have done so on their own. However, Zelensky says that Russia is using social media, including TikTok, to recruit Chinese nationals.
I see.
So Ukraine says it doesn't believe that these recruitments are done on official national levels or any commands were given on governmental levels, but also claims that Beijing knows that its citizens are there, but turning a blind eye. So according to China, comments from Chinese officials, they have rejected this. They're saying that people are joining on their own initiative, and it is totally unfounded that to claim that Beijing knows about this, or even there are significant numbers being involved. And in terms of China's official position, they've officially remained neutral. But however, under the surface, Russia does make heavy use of Chinese-made components in the arms industry.
Yes.
But then as does Ukraine. President Zelensky says that he also believes that the U.S. was very much surprised and believes that this is unacceptable.
Ah, yes, indeed. That's what's going on in the news. And of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2 for Wa글와글. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right, it is time for our first song. And I believe it is definitely a dance one. Bacarena by Los Del Rio. As requested. Why? Why, souvenir님? 왜요? Anyways, enjoy.
I am not trying to seduce you.
When I dance, they call me Macarena, and the boys they say que soy buena. They all want me, they can't have me, so they all come and dance beside me. Move with me, chant with me, and if you're good, I'll take you home with me.
Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena.
Now don't you worry about my boyfriend, the boy whose name is Vitorino. I don't want him, couldn't stand him, he was no good, so I... Now, come on, what was I supposed to do? He was out of town, and his two friends were so fine.
Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena.
I am not trying to seduce you.
Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena.
Come and find me, my name is Macarena. Always at the party con las chicas que son buenas. Come join me, dance with me, and all you fellas chant along with me.
Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena.
Welcome back, and really thank you for that song request, souvenir님. 아니, 너무 재밌었죠. 네, 혜리 씨 너무 춤 잘 춥니다. That's so true, and she kind of livened up our broadcast. But back to you, the listeners. We're talking about work environment. Which would you rather? Be in this like completely silent, like kind of like work-only office environment versus a very social, and everyone knows all your business kind of social setting at an office. And by the way, what does your current office really feel like? So looking at some of your messages, we have, first of all, let's see. Oh, Leslie, who says, my job was made permanent work from home at the beginning of the pandemic. So basically the last 5 years, I am surrounded by books, plants, and my cat supervises from his chair by my desk. So when I worked in the office, I preferred a social one because honestly, I love hearing gossip and drama. I'm nosy like that. Oh, so I guess it wasn't really by choice that you're working in a setting right now where you're working from home. So I can definitely see you, Leslie, kind of, being chatty, the water cooler talk. That's so much fun, is it not? And other people chiming in with their preferences. Benny saying, very social. And the reason I love the workplace with a social environment with lots of talkative time. So yes, that is definitely... seems just like you, Benny, because you're very social as well. Let's get to Kat's Pick, and then I'll read more of your messages coming up real soon. For today's Kat's Pick, I want to cover the nightclub collapse in the Dominican Republic. So the clip, it might say like 120 some odd people have been found dead, but apparently that number has risen to at least 221. Here's the clip from ABC News.
New reporting here tonight on that horrific roof collapse at a packed nightclub in the Dominican Republic. The death toll now more than 120 people dead. Video from inside the club showing the performance when the roof suddenly caves in right there. Tonight here, the desperate search for survivors still underway at this hour. Many still reported missing, and families anxiously waiting at the site hoping for news. As we also learn what one former Major League Baseball player did for another player to save him while losing his own life.
Tonight, rescue workers in Santo Domingo working round the clock in an all-out race to find any survivors after the roof of this popular nightclub collapsed with hundreds packed inside. A growing line of grieving relatives, desperate for answers, gathering outside what's left of the Jet Set nightclub. Officials saying it's unclear how many people were inside Monday night just before 1 a.m. This video circulating online appearing to show a merengue band on stage mid-performance when a man points at the roof saying something fell. Within seconds, the collapse and screams as the video goes dark. This group rushing away from the dance floor moments before the tragic accident. The director of emergency operations saying overnight you could hear people trapped pleading for help. The death toll now rising to at least 124, with more than 150 injured. Among those killed, multiple politicians, a fashion designer, legendary and decorated merengue singer Rui Perez, his saxophonist on stage at the time of the collapse, two former MLB players, Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco. Blanco, according to reports, saved a former teammate by pushing him out of the way of falling debris. Major League Baseball saying they are shocked and saddened by the sudden and tragic death. Just an incredibly difficult scene here outside of the Jet Set nightclub. You can see where the roof came crashing down and all the heavy machinery and cranes that have been working nonstop. Just across the street, hundreds of family members here, desperate for word on their loved ones who are still missing.
Well, apparently now this mission has turned into a recovery mission, meaning the officials don't believe anyone else may be found alive in the rubble. Such a tragic situation, and the fact that people saw the roof collapse, there were signs of it right before it actually did. There's an investigation, of course, that is ensuing. Tragic story, but had to cover it. This was Kat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time for Casey and Foreign Press Highlights. Good morning.
Good morning, Catherine.
Oh, the green. I love when you wear green.
It's that kind of day.
It's that kind of
It
day.
feels like everything is green outside. Might as well be green inside, too.
Yes, yes. I'm kind of wearing an olive green.
Yeah, I can
However,
see
on
that.
camera, I blend in with the beige curtains again.
Oh, yes, you do.
But in person, it's not what it looks like, right?
No.
When I bought the plus, I'm like, oh, it's not gonna make me blend in. Oh, yes, it does.
Slightly.
Slightly, just a little. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's a good look.
It's okay. You're bringing the Kelly green. I love it. Are
Is
you
that
wearing
what
it
it-
because
what'd
of
you
the
call it?
mask? Kelly green,
Kelly
like
green,
a
is that
hunter
what it's
green.
I'm learning all kinds of things.
It's
Kelly
like
green?
the Masters is on right now. I was watching it before. Is that why you're wearing it?
No, is that the golf? Is it related to golf? The Masters? What is
Okay.
that? I have no idea.
I'm reading too much into your green today. Okay.
So many things I don't know.
Hey, text topic time.
Okay.
Which would you rather? Be in an office environment where everybody is just like nose to the grind, really quiet,
No.
doing their work?
No.
Just no.
No.
No. Or-
Whatever the other. This
Or-
must be something better than that.
Yeah, so where everyone's really social, everybody's a social butterfly. There's a lot of water cooler talk. Everybody knows your business.
I want neither. I have to choose one.
Yeah, you got to choose.
Oh boy.
So which would you rather?
I guess I would go with the water cooler, perhaps.
Okay, the water cooler,
Yeah.
meaning like a more social environment.
Yeah, I don't know. What would you pick? They both sound like torture to me.
If I had to pick, I would go for the latter.
The
Meaning-
water cooler?
Yeah, definitely like being sociable
Yeah.
because
You got to be at work together.
and then it's like if you're just not speaking to each other at all.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable
that's
all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Right. The other one's uncomfortable most of the time.
Right. But you don't want to be uncomfortable all the time, right?
No. Yeah, so the
yes.
second choice, yeah.
Yes. All right, here we
Social.
go. Social.
Ugh.
I know. I feel it. You're right in between, right?
Yeah, actually, depends on the day, right?
True. All right. What stories do you have for us?
Well, there's been so much about what's gone on in the past week or so here in South Korea. So
Yes.
I'm going to start with the New York Times. There are a lot of articles related to this idea, but basically a lot of international outlets are explaining what
Yes.
happened. The New York Times pretty much says it succinctly in its title. The article says, How South Korea's Democracy Prevailed Over a Reckless Leader. So this is directly from the article. The rise and fall of Yoon Suk-yeol exposed a vulnerability in South Korean democracy, but also headline,
Yes.
a resilience. Its people were always ready to fight for it. And that's what this article is entirely about.
Right. So, how does the Times explain, kind of the title?
I think so. Okay, this is what it says in the article, and I think the point is that democracies are fragile. And perhaps here in South Korea, because of its recent history, people here are aware of that. So,
Yes.
as they say, to South Koreans, democracy's never been something given. It was fought for and won through decades of struggle against authoritarian leaders at the cost of torture, imprisonment, and bloodshed.
Sure.
And if you're unfamiliar with South Korean history, that might be a shock to some. Like a lot of people know, as they say in the article later, they say South Korea is known for K-pop and cars and smartphones, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people don't realize how much people have fought for democracy in the recent past.
Yeah, modern history.
They say all the major political milestones in South Korea, an end to dictatorship, the introduction of free elections, the ouster of abusive leaders were achieved after citizens took to the streets.
That's true.
And that's like a lot of history encapsulated in like 2 paragraphs.
Right. But I mean, as the Times points out and
Yes.
as you point out, right, I mean, if you are younger maybe,
Yep.
or maybe you weren't keen on Korean history,
Sure.
but a lot happened in those decades.
And I'm going to say,
Yes.
the Korean War is known as the Forgotten War in the United States.
Right.
I would say, it might, American education, of course, is very regionally specific.
Yes.
But by and large, from my experience in a few different states, Korean history was largely glossed over in any
completely.
world history class I
Completely.
ever had. Yeah.
Right. It was a paragraph.
Yeah.
If that.
Right.
And it was only about the Korean War.
Right. Yeah. So Basically, the Times is kind of trying to educate people on what happened here and why it's so important here and why people are so active about it.
Sure.
So they say, unlike those who fought government repression in the 1950s through the 1980s,
Yes.
South Koreans protesting in recent months had democratic institutions on their side. That's a big change from what the previous generations had.
Yes.
The current constitution, just written in 1987, after a huge pro-democracy uprising, gave the National Assembly the power to vote down martial law and impeach presidents, which is why what happened recently was able to happen.
Sure.
The Constitutional Court was actually created under that constitution. I didn't know that. So they got to decide whether to remove or reinstate an impeached president. And leaders democratically elected under that constitution actually imprisoned those who had earlier taken power by military force. So that's like, okay, 87 is a while ago now, I guess, for some of us.
Right.
I remember 87.
Right.
But that's a fairly recent change.
It is, when you think about it. That was like the lead up into the 88 Seoul Olympics as well.
Right after that, right.
Right. So, maybe are they trying to allude to the idea that the Constitution may need to be revised? Are they alluding to that?
You know what? That seems to be what they're perhaps implying. But another big point they make in this article is that younger generations really need to be educated on the history of their democracy. So that's
true.
an important point.
Yes.
And they say, younger generations, including paratroopers who were sent to the National Assembly in December to seize the assembly, they all grew up learning about their history through countless box office hit movies about these kind of topics. Also reading from novelists like the Nobel laureate Hong Kong they mentioned in the article. So it's a thing, even though, younger generations are removed from this in a way,
Yes.
they still grow up knowing about it and, of course, hearing about it from their parents and grandparents. So, that's perhaps why on December 3rd, the troops, there's plenty of videos out there where you see
Yes.
troops hesitating before citizens, not taking any violent action towards them.
Trying not to, yes.
Right. And there's a lot of surprise at the time in the international news that was reported about it. You remember seeing the soldier
Yes.
bowing as he turned to leave.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
And even Leslie makes a good point. She says her degree is in history. That's what she majored in. And she says she didn't have a single course in college that mentioned the Korean War. It was
Right.
World War II heavy. Because,
Sure.
well, now I'm sure it's changing a bit, but, American, history or the classes taught in the U.S., as you know, as well. It was like very...
If mentioned at all.
If mentioned at all, it was really brief, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
and
so.
it's which is so surprising because that whole outcome was related to World War II as well. I mean, it's not like these things are unconnected, but
Exactly. So, anything else we need to learn or to keep an eye on for this article, this story?
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. They do mention that, despite the heavy polarization in South Korea right now, things
Yes.
were actually able to be decided in a way that upholds democracy.
Yes.
They do mention that this polarization is not going to go away anytime soon, but I'll leave you with this. One big lesson from this is the power grab that we witnessed also exposed vulnerabilities of democracy in South Korea. If such a thing can happen in a nation long considered as an exemplary case of democratization in Asia, scholars have warned that this can happen elsewhere too. So I think that's a big takeaway from the article. Perhaps.
If it can happen in Korea,
Yes.
it can happen elsewhere. That's true.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a warning to the world, I think.
Yes. Well, thank you for covering this story, a Korean story very much so, but of course from the perspective of an international news outlet. All right, let's move on to our next story.
Well, this is another thing apparently that's been getting global attention for South Korea. The headline from the Financial Times of all places.
Okay, what is it?
Are you sipping soju? South Korea's favorite spirit. From Financial Times.
That's the title?
British publication, in case you're unfamiliar. They say in the article, the vodka-like drink is going global. And I was like, really? Vodka-like? Is that ring true for you?
Like,
I never, yeah.
It's just like vodka is so vodka.
Yeah.
To me.
Yes.
And soju is so soju. I mean,
yeah.
I guess there might be similarity, clear in color.
Color, yeah. Okay. I'm with you. I'm following you there. Yeah, maybe that's where they're going.
I'm trying to make the link. I don't know.
Yeah. To British readers, I guess they're trying to here's this, compare it to this. Something you're familiar with, I guess.
I guess, yeah. They're trying to make it a little more familiar, maybe.
I guess that's the idea. And they don't let it go. They say
really?
Soju is a white spirit that comes in a range of styles, but traditionally distilled from grain. I guess that's a similarity to to
Yes.
vodka. However, they do mention one of the major brands quite a few times in this article. I won't do that.
No.
But they say their recipe is a mix of rice, barley, sweet potato, tapioca. That does not sound like vodka to me. They do,
Sweet potato and tapioca.
right? No.
Yeah.
I was aware of the sweet potato thing too. The tapioca was new to me. I didn't know that.
Okay.
They do say the big commercial brands here, often when they make it, they distill it to a very high strength and then dilute it afterwards, which I was unaware of.
I didn't know. I don't know the history or the what goes into the making of soju.
Me neither.
Right.
But I do. Are you a soju drinker?
Not really.
Okay,
I'm
me
just not
neither.
a drinker. It's
Okay.
not because I dislike soju.
No,
I
it's
just
okay.
can't drink.
I'm not pressuring you.
Yeah, no.
We'll do shots after the break.
Okay.
So basically, I'm a slight bit of a connoisseur of like the more expensive soju on occasion, and it is really strong. Oh. So after thinking about this, so I guess they do distill it to a really strong degree, and then for the mass consumption, kind of cheaper versions, they just dilute it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But they do also say it's often sweetened and resulting in a spirit that tastes like an easy drinking version of vodka. There you have it again. But the idea of this article is to kind of introduce it, I think, to British readers, even though it seems to be taking off there as well.
Sure.
They do say it is the world's best-selling spirit brand. They do mention the big producer here in Korea. That's
Yes.
also the number one producer now. But they say, a lot of the boom in this is because of all things related. K-pop, kimchi, Korean skincare, Squid Game mentioned. And they say these green bottles are popping up in supermarkets and cocktail bars everywhere now.
Right. And I always wonder, like, maybe there's a reason why they're a particular color, the bottles. Like,
Yeah, they don't mention that. But
I'm curious as to why.
yeah, why that green, that signature green?
Right.
Sometimes you see that pale blue one.
Yeah.
I don't know what company that might be, but you know what I mean.
Right.
But so if you see that green bottle, you're like,
You
I
know
what
what's
that
in
is.
it, right?
Exactly.
So in terms of the Financial Times, do they explain like the appeal aside from the fact that like everything from Korea or a lot of things are kind of trendy right now?
Kind of. There's a Korean American restaurant beverage director named Haeda Shin who says Shin believes this will be soju's breakthrough year. It's been building momentum. K-pop stars are bringing their brand ambassadorship along with them.
Ooh.
At the same time, drinkers are catching on to soju's drinkability. So they keep mentioning that throughout the article. But I think the more interesting thing is kind of a glimpse from international readers into what
Yes.
soju means here. They say a half-size bottle of soju in Korea can cost as little as $1. That's not what it costs in the UK.
I was gonna say.
And I'm thinking supermarket price.
Okay.
Not at a restaurant.
Okay.
Not at a restaurant anymore. No. So yes, they're talking about how easy it is to buy, basically. They say it's usually enjoyed with food and beer. Sharing a bottle with friends is a time-honored ritual. And according to one Seoul-based bar consultant, if you want to make friends in Korea, then you need to have a soju with them. Does that sound about right to you?
소주 한 잔.
Yeah.
I kind of see that though, like 조금 친해지려면.
Even though we're not like
Yeah.
heavy soju, I look like soju today, but even though we're not, big soju drinkers, we've had that experience, right?
No, of course. Like where you feel like you're getting closer, more,
Yeah.
you get more personable and friendly with people you have a little drink with. And yes, it all begins with a little shots of soju.
That's right.
I can see that. Yes.
One bar owner in Brooklyn in particular, she says like much of the goal with soju drinking is to allow Koreans to let loose, to set aside their worries, have fun with their friends, and loosen the rigid structures of Korean society. She
don't
said it,
know.
not me.
Are they so rigid these days?
I don't know.
I think things have loosened up quite a bit. That's
I
just my
think maybe
personal
that's the
opinion.
history of it.
Yeah, but
That's
I
why
definitely
it's-
get it.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to. Anything else you want to mention before?
Yeah, can I introduce a song for us today?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to do this because there was a new single released yesterday from Busan's own Seisumi. So I want to take a listen to the song Vacation, featuring Kim Hanju of Silica Gel, by the way, or Silica Gel if you prefer.
Yes.
And the timing is good for them. They're actually representing their brand across the world right now.
Yes,
they're going to
yes.
Australia tomorrow, and then in May they're going to be heading to the UK for a bunch of shows, including an appearance at Brighton's Great Escape Festival. So, look out, Soju. Seisumi's out there representing Korea too.
Yes, love it. K-music. So here it is, and we'll check in with you next week. Thank you. Bye, Casey.
Have a great weekend.
All right, this is Vacation by Seisumi.
FM 부산 영어 방송.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산. 이곳 부산은 계절을 물들이는 다양한 축제로 늘 풍성합니다. 봄의 시작을 알리는 봄꽃 축제부터 부산의 여름을 만끽하는 바다축제, 전 세계 영화인들이 모이는 부산국제영화제와 새로운 시작의 해맞이 축제까지. 부산의 축제는 우리의 열정을 가득 담고 있습니다. 바쁜 일상은 잠시 뒤로하고 특별한 시간을 선물 받는 바로 이곳 부산에서 우리의 삶은 축제가 됩니다. 축제로 하나 되는 부산, 여러분은 어떤 축제를 기다리시나요? 이 캠페인은 대선공익재단과 BFM 부산 영어방송이 함께합니다.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Did you know that an average person in South Korea uses more than 10 kilograms of disposable products a year? While convenient, it does weigh heavily on the environment as they take up to 500 years to break down. Here is how we can cut down on disposable products. First, use tumblers and mugs instead of plastic or paper cups. When you go grocery shopping, bring a reusable bag so you won't have to ask for a plastic one. At home, instead of reaching for single-use paper towels or wet wipes, use rags and towels. These small steps for the environment can have a big impact on planet Earth. This campaign was brought to you by BEFM Busan 영어 방송.
김밥가게 박 사장님도, 문구점 김 사장님도, 우리 부산의 경제를 움직이는 사람들. 우리 동네 작은 가게로 향하는 발걸음이 우리 부산의 경제를 키워가는 한 걸음입니다. 부산 방송광고 발전 협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded.
What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan. I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock. This is News Highlights. South Korean shares rally over 6% after Trump's tariff pause. South Korean stocks rallied 6.6% yesterday as the U.S. administration's temporary pause of reciprocal tariffs on South Korea improved market sentiment. The benchmark Korea Composite Stock Price Index, known as KOSPI, soared 151.36 points, or 6.6%, to close at 2,445.06. Sharply rebounding from the 17th-month low the previous day. Authorities issued a sidecar order halting program purchasing for 5 minutes after the KOSPI 200 futures soared 5% for more than 1 minute. The Korean won also traded considerably higher, ending the day at 1,456.41 against the dollar. Constitutional Court rejects Justice Minister's impeachment. The Constitutional Court yesterday rejected the impeachment of Justice Minister Park Sung-jae over his alleged involvement in former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law imposition last year. The court, in a unanimous verdict, said there is no evidence to back allegations that Park aided in the martial law declaration by implied agreement simply because he did not impose the former president during a cabinet meeting before the martial law announcement or had a meeting at the presidential safe house after the lifting of martial law. The court's ruling immediately reinstated Park nearly 4 months after he was impeached by the National Assembly. Ex-President Yoon to leave presidential residence today. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol will leave the presidential residence today at 5 p.m. and return to his private residence, officials said yesterday. The Presidential Security Service, or PSS, has reportedly completed organizing a private resident security team of about 40 people for Yoon. Under the current law, Yoon can receive protection from the PSS for up to 10 years. Former senior presidential aides are expected to visit the residence prior to Yoon's departure. Yoon supporters and protesters gathered in front of the Hannam-dong residence yesterday and held demonstrations. KDCA urges travelers to check measles risk. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, or KDCA, yesterday urged travelers to check measles outbreaks in their countries of destination and get vaccinated if necessary amid a global resurgence of the disease. 35 people in South Korea have contracted measles as of last Saturday. Some 2/3 of the cases were contracted overseas during travel, with 22 people infected in Vietnam and 1 in Uzbekistan. The KDC advised those planning trips to countries reporting a measles epidemic, such as Cambodia, China, Vietnam, and the Philippines, to check up on their vaccination status prior to departure. U.S. tariffs on China now 145%. Markets close with steep losses. The White House announced that the total tariff on most Chinese goods is now 145%, as President Donald Trump's 125% levy comes on top of an existing 20% tariff. The U.S. stock market suffered another day of deep losses, with the S&P 500 closing 3.45% down, the Nasdaq down by 4.31%, and the Dow down by 2.54%. Trump defended the tariffs but warned of some transition difficulties. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said these tariffs are the worst inflicted wound on a well-functioning economy. This was News Highlights. It's now time for Wagga Wagga. Haley's back.
Hello, hello.
Macarena dancer.
Woohoo.
Yay. Yeah, no.
Our producer told me to cover my, she wrote, "Haley 얼굴 가려요?" on our board. And I was like, you want me to cover my face? Because my dance, is it because of my dancing?
Right.
No, she said the filter was covering my face.
To lower it.
Okay, got
yes,
it.
yes.
Here we go.
All right. So for our first story, acting president Han Duck-soo has named his nominations for the soon-to-be vacant Constitutional Court justice seats, right? And the media has been going through the usual replay of their past rulings, and in one case by Judge Ham Sang-hoon. This is under scrutiny right now.
Right. So this is a case from back in 2017 when the judge said a bus company was in the right to fire one of their drivers who embezzled 2,400 won.
Yes,
2,400 won. So this is back when he was presiding over Gwangju High Court. Judge Ham, he ruled over an appeals case from a wrongful termination lawsuit. So this involved a driver, E, who filed the suit. So he was the plaintiff. He was fired for misappropriating, and this is 착복, so basically taking 2,400 won from the 46,000 won he received from 4 passengers.
Yes.
So the driver said that being dismissed was too grave of a punishment for the amount, and he actually won in the first court. However, when the case appeared in front of Judge Ham, he flipped that decision. So in a court verdict under Ham said that the act of the driver not giving the driving company 2,400 won was not by mistake, and it's reasonable to see that it was a purposeful act. Therefore, the plaintiff has responsibility. Also, it qualified the clause of misappropriation of fares, which is a fireable offense under the labor agreement that the labor union and the company signed. And as for the fact, because a lot of the comments were like, okay, this isn't, some massive scheme. It was 2,400 won, literally. Well, as to the amount, the judge said on principle and by nature of bus fares, any amount that is quote unquote embezzled would be low because, back in 2017, this was when bus fares were 1,500 won roughly, depending on where you are.
Yes.
So the amount may be small, but this is the defendant, the bus company's major source of income. So we cannot discount it as just a small amount or minor infraction. And the Supreme Court agreed and they confirmed the decision. So regarding this, nominee Ham's side said the labor and management sides actually agreed back then to make this a part of their contract because such embezzling happened too frequently at the company. And the head of the labor union admitted in court that this was a fireable offense.
Yes. So this is definitely a decision that's, getting a lot of tongues wagging right now. Next up, though, we're going to move on and talk about this. We often see private academies, 학원s, put up these huge banners like saying oh, so-and-so got into this, university or how many of their students got into, a top-ranked university. However, a banner like this is currently being hung over Seoul City Hall, really?
Right, 서울시청, or rather Seoul City Hall's library.
The library, okay.
So this says Seoul learns, 서울 learn, 782 students admitted to colleges. And it gives specific names of universities. 17 to Seoul National University, 12 to Korea, 14 to Yonsei, so on and so forth. And it's the top 3. And then medical schools and major universities, 719. Why? What? Okay, so first, what is Seoul Learn?
What is that? 서울런이 뭐예요?
It's a public education program where the city provides one-on-one mentoring and free academic contents to students from low-income and other vulnerable households.
I see.
So the intent of the program is great. Everybody should get education. But of course, it's the banner that's the source of scrutiny for some, because they point out that the program, it now comes off, at least from the banner, as being solely achievement focused. Which school did you get into? And that a city, which is of course a public entity, a public government, now it seems to be advocating this hierarchy-based university system.
Yes.
Elitist. So a civic group of quote-unquote political moms said that this mars the purpose and the intent behind what is otherwise a great program.
Right.
And that it comes off as justifying discrimination based on one's schooling. And by the way, this is a larger issue. Back in 2015, although we do see this all the time, the National Human Rights Commission ruled that these banners advertising admission to certain schools, they could create a culture of discrimination and advise governments not do this. Of course, private academies, being private, they are in the right to do what they want. But,
for profit, right?
Right. But here are other comments to consider, which I thought, not agreeing, but was an interesting point, food for thought. that banner shows public education can also yield comparable results as private, read expensive education. And, the consulting, that it could be a way to kind of quell the private education zeal, that rush. Maybe not the banner, but the fact that the students from low-income households could get into the so-called sky schools by just studying from public platforms, that can create a positive effect and inspire and aspire other students, younger students in similar backgrounds to, you don't have to give up just because your parents can't afford to send you to the famous Taechidong academies and put you through all the consulting.
Yes.
So intent behind the program, wonderful. Let's expand that nationwide. But the banner, we can understand why.
Right. And I'm also curious as to what our waivers think about this whole situation. Because, many of our listeners are parents or in the education field as well.
Or you've all gone through the system.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, moving on for now, let's talk about this. Writer's block. It's real, right? And you're a writer. And, some writers are apparently choosing to imprison themselves like for real?
Right.
Like how?
And I want to ask our waivers. So while if you have writer's block or you just hit a wall, 일하다가 막히면, what do? What do you do? I just push through.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I either try to push through or I take a mini break and then I try to come back to it.
I'm always like, if I don't do it now, then I'm always nicer to future Haley than current Haley. I'm like, all right, future me's going to suffer. 지금 안 하면 언제? And that's my thing. But put yourself in prison, perhaps.
Oh, like literally?
Well, you're not going to commit a crime, but there is a prison for writers. 장흥 Prison has been revamped as a culture space. It's dubbed papillon, like the papillon, the film, papillon 집. And it's a pun because 집 is a house, but it's also spelled a ZIP, like a compressed file.
Yes.
So this old 장흥 Prison opened back in 1974, shut down in 2014 when a new prison opened up in the county.
Okay.
So it's been used as, and this might look really familiar if you're on our YouTube because it's been on multiple shows and movies like 1987, Prison Playbook, and The Glory. And the county has remodeled that to a culture center, including archives, exhibition sites, a hotel prison, a prison-themed hotel like a youth hostel.
Okay.
And the women's prison has been turned into an artist and writer's residency. And I like the name 글방 because bang is also like a colloquial name for a cell, a writer's cell where you can stay inside up to 6 hours per day and just imprison yourself, lock yourself in there until you finish your novel.
So interesting.
Yeah, it's not open quite yet. It's going to open to the public fairly soon.
Oh, I'm sure many people will check this out. So pretty exciting. Now, we talked about Justice Moon Hyung-bae and his vow to live an average man's life, his words. Actually, the man who inspired the Constitutional Court justice is getting renewed spotlight.
Right. So this figure is called Kim Jang-ha, and a documentary titled 어른 김장하, Adult Kim-jang-ha, is regaining popularity. And here, 어른 also serves two meanings, of course, someone who's of age, but like 큰 어른, like an elder, like a pillar in society is another meaning. So who is this Kim Jang-ha? He's a Korean medicine doctor who ran his practice for 60 years, but that is barely scratching the surface. So using that money he earned from his practice, he founded and ran Myeongsin High School in Jinju back in 1984, and then he donated the school to the country. Back then, the school was appraised at 10 billion won, 100억 won, and he just gave it to the country. He was obviously a philanthropist. He's a true believer in education, funded over 1,000 students' schooling. He gave scholarships, and including Justice Moon Hyung-bae. So, individuals who would go on to serve important roles in society. Kim also built a shelter for women and children who had survived domestic violence. And during the confirmation hearing, and we really don't have direct quotes from him.
Yes.
There are very few number of interviews because he always prefers to stay behind the scene. He's a very private person. So what we know about him or of him are from words from his students, from people who have been beneficiaries of his scholarships, including, again, then Judge Moon Hyung-bae back in 2019 during that same confirmation hearing, spoke that Mr. Dr. Kim Jang-ha showed him through action that South Korea is a country where you can become wealthy based on freedom, seek equality to eradicate discrimination, and build strong connections for a philanthropic community.
Yes.
And he told this story, anecdote, when he passed a bar, 사법고시, and went to thank his mentor. Kim told Judge Moon that you don't need to thank me and you don't need to repay me because I gave you what belongs to society. So if you want to pay anyone back, it should be to your community. I mean,
that is so deep.
My goodness. So
Yes.
upon this renewed attention, though, that documentary, which was a Baeksang Award winner, it's actually getting re-released.
Oh. Well, definitely want to check it out now. So thank you for telling us more about this actual figure who inspired so many. And of course, all the other Woggly news. Wishing you a great weekend. So check in with you on Monday.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Everybody, this was Haley. And now I'm going to get your updated traffic and weather. It's time for your update in traffic. It looks congested right now on the Gwanghwan Bridge. On the top portion going towards the Daejeon overpass right now, there is some traffic detected on Suyeong-no from the KBS 3-way intersection to Daenam intersection. It's also looking slow on Chungnyeol-daero from Daejeong intersection to Dongnae intersection. Currently, it's 14 degrees Celsius here in Busan. Clear skies. It's going to go up to 19 degrees today. Looking ahead toward the weekend, there's a chance of rain tomorrow afternoon through early Sunday morning. And similar temperatures on both days. Morning lows of 8 degrees, and then a high of 15 to 16 degrees Celsius for both tomorrow and Sunday. This was your traffic and weather. All right, here we go. Firework by Katy Perry.
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Do you ever feel so paper thin, like a house of cards, one blow from caving in? Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under screens, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you, 'cause there's a spark in you. You just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just own the night like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you work. Make 'em go as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go You're gonna leave 'em all in You don't have to feel like a wasted space. You're original, cannot be replaced. If you only knew what the future holds. After a hurricane comes a rainbow. Maybe a reason why all the doors are closed, so you could open one that leads you to the perfect road. Like a lightning bolt, your heart will glow, and when it's time you'll know. You just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just own the night like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you work. Make 'em go as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a
It's Friday, and we're changing things up. Just for today, we have Vasana on first. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yay. So for our text topic, I want to ask you.
Yes.
If you had to choose, and you can't say in between, type of work environment where A,
yes,
it's work only, focus on the work, not really conversing with your colleagues, versus 2 or B, like kind of a very like social atmosphere where everyone, knows what's going on, like what you're gonna do for the weekend.
Yeah.
Like in Korea, they say, 뭐 숟가락 몇 개 있는지까지 다 안다. Like everybody knows everyone's business, right?
Yep.
So if you had to choose between those two extremes, which would you choose?
I have worked in both those kinds of offices.
And
I've enjoyed both. Where if I have people I get along with, then yes, I'd stay behind. With those people, I've sometimes hung out on the weekends with them. We've played soccer. We've had a soccer team together.
Oh, really?
But then on the other hand, I've had other companies where I really want to go home. And that was basically because there was somebody home worth waiting for. So.
Aw, that's so... We're talking about your wife.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, my wife.
Okay. Yes, definitely Vasana's wife. Yes, the missus.
Not the other.
No.
That doesn't exist.
No. Yes, because there's only one.
There's only one.
Of course. Yes, we want to have a good weekend.
Definitely.
Well, let's dive into what in the world. What do you have for us?
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first thing, lost and found.
Oh.
Does this company have a lost and found, by the way?
Here?
Yeah.
I don't know if there is an actual lost and found counter, but I have lost an earring.
Yes.
And I've asked around.
And no.
No, I actually found it.
Oh, okay.
It was in the editing room, one of the editing rooms.
Okay.
Someone had nicely put it, like just left it on the table.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, oh, nice. Yeah, so I found it, yeah.
They weren't trying to cut it up?
No.
Anyway, Uber just released its annual Lost and Found Index.
Yes.
And it's a wild ride.
Really?
This isn't your typical, oops, I left my phone.
Not that kind of thing?
That kind of thing. People have left behind strange and it's weird and wonderful things.
Okay.
So obviously the most commonly left behind things were phones.
Yes.
Keys, wallets. But now let's get into the other ones. So I was going to put up pictures, but I think they're a little bit too gruesome for this time of the morning. First one, you can use your imagination.
Okay, here we go.
A mannequin head with human hair. So it looks a little gruesome. So when you touch it, it's not synthetic. It's real
hair?
Real hair.
Maybe they were like a cosmetologist.
Maybe.
No, the reason why I say, because I have some students where they walk around with like a mannequin head with hair. 미용 계열 학생들 들고 다니더라고요. So
around
it
school.
could be around school.
Around school.
But then oh my gosh.
They don't carry it on the subway like that.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they need to. But yeah, but that could be
Surely
why.
They should put it in a bag or
They
a carry
could be.
bag.
That could be why. But that's a big thing to miss.
Next one, a live turtle. A live
turtle,
not
kobugi.
a stuffed one, a live one.
Oh, how do you miss that?
Someone shelled out for a ride. And left their buddy behind.
Aw.
Yeah, how can you forget a turtle?
I know, it's a living being.
Yeah, maybe they were in a bally mood and the turtle was so
천천히, but still, it's a living thing. Yes. What else?
Next one, 5-gallon bucket of beans.
What?
Yeah, why would you buy? I guess it could be a restaurant or something.
5 gallons of beans.
What's gallons in liters?
You're asking me on the spot.
person.
You should have looked it up yourself, Vasana. But I have the internet,
I did,
so
but
I'll look it up.
It's on my other copy.
What else?
I had a pun for that. This is a legume emergency. Anyway, a chainsaw, a Viking drinking horn.
A Viking drinking. Slow down. A chainsaw.
A chainsaw.
Wow. What were they gonna saw down?
Yeah. So Texas, a Viking drinking horn.
Wow.
15 hookahs, as in the smoke. Not. Yeah.
Yeah.
A urinal.
A urinal. Somebody left a urinal in it.
Urinal behind. A bucket of feta cheese. And the most poetic for me.
Yes.
Divorce papers.
Someone left divorce papers.
Divorce papers in the cab.
What, is that a good thing?
I don't know.
Maybe they changed their mind?
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
Maybe catch the next ride.
Ooh, but wow, divorce papers.
So, one question for you. Have you ever left anything, we have in the office, but have you left anything in a cab, in the bus, or the subway?
I have left minor things, nothing major.
Okay.
And thank goodness. But, my mom has left her phone in a cab at least 3 times.
Yeah.
And then finally, we bought her one of those god-awful chains, like as a joke. But it was kind of a semi-joke. No. She refused. She's like, no. She's like, no, she'd rather buy a new phone than admit that she's forgetful.
I've lost 3 phones in cabs.
Have you found them?
No. Oh. No, I haven't. That was in the past before I got married and in my single days. You'd hop in the car, and usually your own car, you have the little hole in the door stairwell in the doorwell. So you just put your phone in that there. And so
that's what you did?
I've done that. I did that every time.
Not smart.
Okay, somebody might have been a little inebriated and then hop out. Oh, my phone.
There's your word for today, inebriated.
Inebriated.
Means drunk. Yes, full of liquor.
Okay.
Yes.
Next tale.
Okay, next.
The next one comes out of Florida.
Is this a man from Florida?
Yes, and this one's actually a woman. And the headline, you can probably guess what it is from the headline.
Okay.
Oops, wrong car. No. Oops, wrong car.
Meaning you went to the wrong car?
Okay, it's a little bit worse than that.
Oh, no.
An 18-year-old woman in Volusia County had a bone to pick with her ex.
Oh, with her ex-boyfriend.
Okay. So she allegedly grabbed some eggs and yellow spray paint. You know where this is going now.
Not good.
Marches out into the Florida night with a teenage accomplice and decorates.
Decorate?
That means beautiful.
That's
Look at the
vandalizing.
Yellow. Decorates.
That's illegal.
What she believes is her ex-boyfriend's car.
Oh my gosh, but it was the wrong car?
The wrong car.
That is a big mistake.
That is funny.
I mean, she shouldn't do it in the first place, no matter how bad he was, but...
Yeah.
Because, you'll get in trouble.
You need to put a change on that idiom, measure twice. Cut once. So she needs to double check
the car. Check the license plate. License plate.
Yeah, before she takes her revenge.
So what happened? Do we know why she did this?
Yes, as she was scorned. A scorned woman you should never do. So the neighbor's car suffered an estimated $5,000. $5,000.
Yes.
In damage. And let's say her art career is off to a criminal start. So as if the situation wasn't extra enough, she was left with egg on her face. And it was basically a crime of passion.
I'm thinking that, isn't she facing some sort of, criminal charges?
Yes.
Yes.
So criminal mischief. Her accomplice was underage.
Yes.
So she also faces charges with him because she forced him to do it with her. So that person faces underage alcohol possession, a DUI, and also with her contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Oh, yes.
And they also found some Mary Jane in their pockets.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so it was a lot of... There's another word for next week, Mary Jane.
Yeah, but she got the book thrown at her for not just one charge, but multiple charges.
Yeah. Actually, Mary Jane Day tomorrow, right? Anyway, so to all you heartbroken vigilantes out there, measure twice, spray once.
No, don't spray it all.
Don't spray it all. Don't spray it all.
No, we don't condone any type of crime, including misdemeanors.
Yeah.
Right. All right. For our next story.
A hero.
Hero story.
A hero story.
Okay.
Okay, so not a firefighter, not a soldier, and not a Marvel character. It is a 2-foot-long African giant pouched rat.
Ooh, you got me at rats. Okay, I was following along so intently until you said rat.
I had you at hero, I lost you at rat.
Yes, yes.
The name of the rat, though, Ronan.
Oh, that's a cute name.
Very
Ronan.
Cute name. So it's not the kind that steals your pizza or runs for mayor of New York.
Ugh, yes.
So this one's saving lives. So this
Really?
lovely rat saves lives.
How?
And he's just broken the Guinness World Record for...
For what?
Detecting the most landmines.
That's dangerous work.
So rats have a very sensitive nose. And he's detected 109 landmines and 15 other explosives as well.
Wow.
So I've got this simile here. His nose is more sensitive than a team leader catching the scent of someone about to sneak out before the huishik starts. 어디가? 회식 있다. 나와.
아저씨, 진짜. Oh, is that Ronan?
Yeah, that's Ronan. So the reason
I
why
want to say he's cute, but
he is
he's a
cute.
rat.
The reason why they use rats, obviously, not obviously, is because they're light. So landmines need weight for it to be triggered.
That's true.
So even if they use the...
Please tell me Ronan's still alive.
Ronan's still alive as of today.
Yes.
Might not be tomorrow, but Ronan's still alive. Also, because of his nose, he was. They can sniff out things as well. Sniff out all the explosives.
Yes.
So his weight or lack of it, their lack of the weight.
Yes.
And,
plus his sense of
sensitive nose.
smell.
Sense of smell.
Yes.
Yes. So he broke the record, which was held by another rodent in another part of the world as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So he can sweep the area the size of a tennis court in 30 minutes.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's faster than most of us can find our keys.
So he's on like a leash.
Yep, he's on a leash.
Yes.
And I would hate to be the person holding the leash because...
Well, that person is well protected. I'm worried about Ronan.
No, but what if Ronan, kind of like misses it by about a centimeter and you step on it? Yeah.
That's true, but still.
He or she has
Ronan
protective
sounds like
gear.
a he, right?
No, the person behind.
Oh, the person. Yeah, we don't know.
Not sure. There's so much equipment on there. I'm not sure.
Right.
So let's give it up for Ronan, the only rat in history who can say he's a record-breaking deminer, disease detector, and probably better his job than 90% of middle managers.
Oh, maybe. Yes. Well, thank you for bringing us such interesting stories from around the world, and we'll check in with you next week.
Thank you.
Everybody, this was Vasana, and we are going to take a song break before a special interview. So here it is. This is The Phoenix by Fall Out Boy.
Take it back. Time crawls on when you're waiting for the song to start. So dance alone to the beat of your heart. Hey, young blood, doesn't it feel like our time is running out? I'm gonna change you like a remix, then I'll raise you like a phoenix. Wearing a vintage misery. No, I think it looked a little better on me. Take it back. Time crawls on when you're waiting for the song to start. So dance alone to the beat of your heart. Hey, young blood, doesn't it feel like our time is running out? I'm gonna change you like a remix, then I'll raise you like a phoenix. Wearing a vintage misery. No, I think it looked a little better on me. I'm gonna change you
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
Wavers out there, you may remember I covered this story with Catsvik just a couple days ago because it was so exciting about dire wolves. Well, recent advancements in genetic engineering have sparked global interest in the possibility of reviving extinct species. So Colossal Biosciences, they claim to have achieved a significant milestone by creating these wolf pups with traits resembling the extinct dire wolf through gene editing techniques. However, some experts have raised questions about the authenticity and implications of such endeavors. So we're going to take a dive into the science behind these claims and explore what it might mean for the future of de-extinction and conservation. So joining us today is Associate Professor Nick Rollins, who's the director of the Otago Paleogenetics Laboratory in the Department of Zoology at the University of Otago. So let's say hi first. Hi, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours, Professor. So, when we saw this announcement and we saw the photos that came along with a story about Colossal Biosciences, they announced the birth of wolf pups with dire wolf-like characteristics through gene editing. And, the headlines were real splashy, I'll be honest. The news headlines were de-extinction, dire wolves are back after, 13,000 years or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I want to know from your perspective, how accurate is it to label these animals as quote unquote de-extincted dire wolves?
Dire wolves are sadly still extinct. I think the media arm of Colossal got away from themselves and ran with it. But what we've got is designer genetically engineered grey wolves. So they are still more closely related to grey wolves, these pups, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, than they are to dire wolves. So if you think there's 4,500,000,000 individual DNA letters in the genetic code of a dire wolf and a grey wolf. And even though they're 99.5% identical, that's still 12.5 million individual differences across their genetic blueprint. And what Colossal has done is they've only done 20 gene edits in 14 genes. So what you've really got is grey wolves showing some dire wolf-like characteristics.
I see. Oh, so the splashy headlines can be quite misleading then.
They can be quite misleading. I remember when it hit the media on Tuesday morning as I was having breakfast and scrolling through Facebook and went, why is Time Magazine reporting that dire wolves are de-extinct? I haven't heard of this. And then once you do the deep dive into it and really get into the articles, then you go, oh, no, they haven't de-extincted them. They've genetically engineered them.
Right. And that is a very important distinction to make. So why do you think this whole idea of de-extinction, whether it Jurassic Park is a lot of the comments that I read under each story were oh, is this the dawn of Jurassic Park, of this fascination by human beings to bring back creatures, whether it be the woolly mammoth or dinosaurs, or in this case, dire wolves. Why do you think people are so fascinated by this?
I think part of it's Jurassic Park and the Jurassic World movies. I know my kids are all fascinated by that as well, but it attracts funding. People are going to donate hundreds of millions of dollars. Like Peter Jackson, the movie director here in New Zealand, donated millions of dollars to it as well.
Yes.
Because they would love to see the dodo or the Tasmanian tiger or the extinct moa or mammoths or dire wolves come back. It's a lot easier to get people to donate money for that than for conservation, which usually runs off a shoestring. In New Zealand, we call it running off the smell of an oily rag.
Yes.
And so people want that, but there's also humanity wants to be able to undo the mistakes of its past. If we can create de-extinction, then we can go back and undo habitat destruction or the extinction of the dodo. So there's almost like this alleviating humanity's guilt for causing extinctions.
Yes. And so this, the whole idea of hybridization or gene editing, they seem to be quite central to, I guess, the efforts to try to, bring back some of these creatures. So can you explain what these processes are? Like, what does it mean exactly? And also maybe their limitations so we have a better grasp of what's going on.
Yep, no, I can do that. So if we were going to de-extinct an animal, we would have to use cloning. Much like what happened with Dolly the sheep all those years ago in the UK. And so you'd need to be able to extract high-quality DNA, long chunks of it that you are able to clone. Now, ancient DNA is chemically modified. It's fragmented. It's like you've put that DNA in a wood-fired pizza oven for 500 degrees. It comes out fragmented in shards and everything. So you can reconstruct the puzzle that's the genome, but it's not in good enough quality. It's like a old secondhand book as opposed to a glossy one you've just bought from the bookstore.
Yes.
So you can't use cloning. It would just fail. So what you have to do with the gene editing and genetic engineering is you extract that DNA out of the direwolf, you sequence the genome, and you compare it to its closest living relative, which is the grey wolf, and then you look for all the areas in the DNA where there's a difference. And what Colossal did is they honed in on what they thought were the key differences. I find it quite ironic that the key differences make direwolves look exactly like what they are out of Game of Thrones, even though that may not be reality.
Right.
And they used an enzyme called CRISPR-Cas9. Think of them as like these little scissors, and you can chop out a piece of DNA out of the grey wolf that may code for large body size, coat colour, bulky size, and then you can slot in a synthetic piece of direwolf DNA. And you take that now genetically modified genome and you can put it in an egg and grow it up into an embryo in a lab, and through technology very similar to in vitro fertilization, IVF, the scientists put those embryos in domestic dog surrogates that brought them to term, and then that's how they've got Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi.
Oh, wow. So it's like human IVF. There was a surrogate, and apparently it was a dog, you're saying?
It was a domestic dog surrogate.
Interesting. So fascinating. All the pieces fitting together for us now. Some scientists argue that editing, just a few genes and from, as you say, a gray wolf does definitely not, equal a real dire wolf being de-extincted. So would you, I think you've already alluded to this, but I'm assuming that you agree with this line of thought that this is not true de-extinction, correct?
Yeah, it's not true de-extinction. It's very much a designer wolf. Colossal have said they're not going to be released, so they're in a large scale paddock, monitored around the clock, very much like Jurassic Park. But no one's going to teach these pups how to behave like dire wolves, how to fill the job vacancy in the ecosystem that a dire wolf would fill. And the goals that the de-extinction companies want is they want to be able to reintroduce these animals back into ecosystems to fulfill key roles that have been missing, re-establish lost ecological connections. And to do that, you need these pups to behave like dire wolves. You would need a large genetically diverse population. So think of all of your listeners will all look a little bit different. You look similar to your siblings and your parents, but you're not genetically identical. That means there's lots of genetic variation. You need that for a self-sustaining population. You don't want the population to be like the English royal family or Tutankhamun who married a sister or the Habsburg dynasty. Very inbred.
Yes. Right. I have a question for you, Professor, though. Okay, so these dire wolves, so-called, created by this particular company, not real dire wolves, but what about like the efforts to for conservation strategies for species that may not be extinct yet but are endangered or like, extremely endangered, where we want to make sure that we preserve, certain species. Do you think that the current technology and work can help, to maybe hold on to the creatures that we do have?
Most definitely. And that's where this technology can be really used for good. Much, much better than bringing back extinct creatures. So it was very quietly announced, buried in all the media that came out of Colossal, that they'd actually used this technology to clone 4 to 5 highly endangered red wolves and introduce genetic variation into those that can be put back into the wild populations for conservation. So I really think you can develop this technology for that, then that can be used across the world. And what they've done is, it's not easy what they've done, but doing this genetic engineering and the surrogates with a mammal and a wolf is kind of the easy part. It's like giving my younger son a Duplo kit and here's the instructions and he will be able to do that. If what needs developing now is taking this technology and applying it to, I suppose, what you call non-model animals. So how do we apply it to marsupials for conservation? How do you apply it to birds when you got the chicken and the egg problem? That's what's going to take development. That's like giving my son, here is a giant Lego model of the Death Star or the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. Now go build that. Infinitely more complicated. I see. I love the analogy so that we understand it better. Duplo to more complicated building blocks. And I also want to ask you this, Professor. We have this, these creatures, these three, Romulus, Remus, Khaleesi, these wolves that have been created by this particular company. And I also want to touch upon the ethics of this, though, because some people might say, why are we messing with DNA and trying to bring back certain species? I mean, are we not like kind of playing God, so to speak? What are your thoughts on this? So I don't think we should be bringing animals back. There are ethical questions that we need to ask, and they're for conservation. We could use this to these little scissors, this CRISPR-Cas9, to reintroduce lost genetic diversity back into highly endangered animal populations. Think like the takahe or the kakapo in New Zealand. But we do need to think of the ethics of what's the point of bringing back 3 direwolf, grey wolf hybrids, designer dogs, if you're not going to release them into the wild as a self-sustaining population. But if you are going to release them, then, for example, how are you going to manage increased human-wolf conflict? Yes. As well as recover that conflict is increasing. But with ethics, we also need to think about how many animals is it going to take to achieve the goal. So if scientists bring back mammoth to trample the Siberian wilderness to recreate the mammoth steppe to sequester carbon, realistically, how many mammoths are we going to need to do that? And then how are we going to handle mammoths coming into conflict? With humans as well. But we also need to think about increasingly indigenous cultures. A lot of these extinct animals are coming from like the Americas, Australia, Mauritius, New Zealand. Right. That Colossal wants to bring back, but there's no discussion anywhere about what Indigenous people's views are or Indigenous data sovereignty.
Yes. And for a final question and to wrap things up for us, what should the future role of such techniques in conservation biology be? What do you think that the goal should be then?
I think we need to use this, as you said, for conservation. So use it to reintroduce lost genetic variation into populations that give them that evolutionary potential to fight against climate change, diseases, to weather, I suppose, the oncoming storm.
Yes.
Increasing numbers in highly endangered populations as well. So use it for good rather than bringing back Jurassic Park.
Well, from your words from your lips to the people who are hearing or listening, I know people were really excited when the headlines hit the entire world. But so thank you for clarifying that. Definitely not real dire wolves that have been brought back from extinction. So thanks for clarifying. And thanks for joining us today, Professor. We do appreciate it.
No worries. Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This was Professor Nick Rollins, and we talked about the whole science of gene editing and, in air quotes, dire wolves, basically gray wolves that resemble what dire wolves would look like in today's day and age. Such an interesting topic. And it's already time to bid you goodbye, but not before I remind you once again that we're having some dry weather. And what does that mean? Dry weather plus winds can turn small sparks into wildfires. So please avoid using fire in your forest during outings or hikes, and do not burn waste or enter forested areas with anything like that. And if you do cause a wildfire, even by accident, that could lead up to 3 years in prison or a 30 million Korean won fine if you're found guilty have, been doing that, even if it's by neglect. So I wish you all a lovely, lovely weekend. And please join me on Monday. We're going to leave you with this one. 가질 수 없는 너 by Bank. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
술에 취한 네 목소리 문득 생각났다던 그 말 슬픈 예감 가누면서 내게로 달려갔던 날 그 밤 희미한 두 눈으로 날 반기며 너 말했지 헤어진 그를 위해선 남아있는 네 삶도 버릴 수 있다고 며칠 사이야 우린 널 달래고 집으로 돌아오면서 마지막까지도 하지 못한 말 혼자서 되뇌었었지 사랑한다는 마음으로도 가질 수 없는 사람이 있어 나를 봐 이렇게 곁에 있어도 널 같지 못하잖아 눈물 섞인 네 목소리 내가 필요하다던 그 말 그것으로 족한 거지 나 하나 힘이 된다면 내게 울거지 두 눈으로
부산의 축제